What's up, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I've had an idea that I've been chewing on for a little bit, and so we're going to start a little bit of a series on the podcast. So I'll explain more of it when we get started. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, you kind of enjoy kind of the idea of it behind it, let us know. Shoot us a message either on Instagram, either on mine or the Jiu-Jitsu podcast Instagram, or even shoot an email over to my email. If you're on my email list, you have it. If not, then you should join it. Then you get it. You can communicate with me a little bit more directly, but shoot me a message. Let me know that you're listening or that you like that particular style, just to get some feedback. But guys, as always, thank you guys for joining us, and thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web is the CBD that I use. And again, for some of you guys that have been listening for long enough, you probably know how the story came about. But I always say this because I got a message the other day from a guy who said, Chewy, why did you start using CBD? Like, what was the whole point? And so the reason why I started using CBD was back in, I think I heard about Charlotte's Web probably almost 10 years ago. And the first time I heard about it, I was like, whatever. It actually wasn't 10 years ago. It wasn't 2011. It was probably closer to 2013 or 14. And I heard about it and I was like, okay, sure, whatever. CBD, great. Like, I'm sure it's just like some snake oil. Because a lot of supplements are like that. You take a lot of supplements and it's just snake oil. So I didn't really think anything of it. And then I was on a vacation in 2016, and I had a shoulder injury, or 2017, excuse me, had a shoulder injury that just kept bugging me. And one of the guys had a CBD balm, rubbed my shoulder down in the CBD balm. And then it was like, I didn't think anything of it, but all of a sudden, like, I could sit up straight. My shoulder didn't bother me. Even Jess noticed it. She noticed it before I did. She was like, I was sitting down and I was typing on my computer, but I had good posture. And before then, my back would have to round because every time I sat up, my mid back muscles would fire up. They'd buck me. So she comes in and says, "Hey, your back's not hurting anymore." I was like, "Yeah, it feels good." And she's like, "Huh, cool." And she's like, "Oh, is it gone?" And I was trying to think about, like, well, why would it have changed? And it was the friggin' balm, because the next day, like, it started kind of bugging me a little bit, not as much, but a little bit. So I went to the street and I found some place that had CBD, and I took some. And what I noticed was every time I would get a different brand, it was like all of a sudden, because this was like right when all the CBD stuff was popping off. Mm-hmm. And there's like a million different brands. It's like everybody's got a CBD brand, right? And I was taking it, and from brand to brand to brand, and even sometimes the same brands, I would get a different feeling. Sometimes I would feel like I was literally high. Like, I was like, so they've got some other stuff in there in CBD, right? Like, it's like, back in the day, they had Coca-Cola with like Coke in it, like cocaine. It's like, you're like, you got a lot of THC there, because I feel like I've just ate an edible, and then sometimes I wouldn't feel anything. But, again, I was getting some effects. I was like, man, I felt like I got something from it. So then we, the partnership with Charlotte's Web started as they gave us some samples to use. And one of the things I found was that it was consistent. It was like, oh, this is consistent across the board, which is important for me as a guy who measures his food when he eats, who measures his coffee beans when he has coffee in the morning. Like, I'm meticulous about that kind of stuff, who uses a timer as he's working so that I can get the same amount of work done. Again, it's important for me. So, like, again, with my supplements and everything else, I want to make sure I'm getting the same thing. And so, again, Charlotte's Web is third-party tested. And so the effects that I had with it, which, again, I felt like I had a lot of reduced inflammation. I felt like some of the sore spots that I used to have were gone. Again, that's what I felt from it. And I also felt like it helped me out with my sleep in a few different ways. So, again, those are all good things for me, because, again, just off the mat stuff like sleep is important. So anything that you can do to boost that and make it positive is a beneficial thing. And so I've been using them ever since 2017. And obviously they've been with us on the podcast since 2018. But again, if you guys want to check them out, the website is charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu, and you'll save 20% on the order. So again, if you're curious about it yourself, if you really want to see if there's something to it, you want to take 30 days worth of a challenge, try something out, pick a product that you like or that you want to try it out for 30 days. You might get the sleep gummies that I like, the raspberry sleep gummies. You could get one of the tinctures. You get any of that stuff. Try it out for 30 days and see what it does for you. Again, it may not do anything, because just like any other supplement or medication, sometimes people don't feel the effects. But if you're like me, you'll use it and you'll be like, that was pretty awesome. I'm going to keep using this stuff. And again, you can make it into a part of your routine.
By the way, the discount's 20% off for the month of June.
Month of June.
It's usually 15% off. A month of June.
Okay.
It's 20% off with promo code Jiu-Jitsu.
So yeah, so you'll have you'll have a little bit to go. So when you get this, when you listen to this, you won't have too much longer. So make sure you take action on that and get it before the discount ends. And also big thanks to Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. I just finished an no-gi session this morning, and I was wearing the Velcro-less shorts. I was also earlier today was wearing one of his t-shirts that has the triangle definition on it. But again, Matt over there at Epic Roll has a bunch of cool stuff, good gear, and a assortment of things from both like the lifestyle end of it. So if you're looking for some cool jiu-jitsu shirts or shorts or stuff to wear that has jiu-jitsu on it, but it's not like douchey, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you can go down the rabbit hole with that stuff. So you can get something that's kind of tasteful, cool design. You can check that out. But if you're looking for some gear that again is not douchey, it's tasteful, whatever, you can get that too. Again, in a lot of cases, I'm more of a less is more guy. And so there's a lot of his stuff that's like that, where it's very simple. I like simple. I like clean stuff. I don't like everything to be super loud. Now he does have some loud stuff if you're into that. You know, he did like some stuff that's a little bit more elaborate, but for me, I'm more of a simplistic guy, and he has a lot of that stuff with the designs. And so again, I'm a fan of his products. I use his stuff when I'm rolling, and like especially the no-gi gear. I've used his gis before. I have a couple students, like one of his gis that he sent me was too big for me, but I gave it to one of my students. Fits him perfectly. He loves the gi. And so again, everything that he's given me to wear, both the clothes and the training gear, have been good. They've held up. And again, I'm a big fan of it. So if you want to check out his stuff, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu. Save 15% on the order. So use that coupon at checkout. And guys, here in the near future, Matt is going to be working with us to create a new Jiu-Jitsu podcast t-shirt, as well as some sort of no-gi setup, right? Because I did the no-gi gear with Origin recently, or the gi with Origin recently. I want to do no-gi setup with Matt, and so I'm interested to see what he comes up with. But it's in the works, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And once that rolls around, I'll let you guys know about it. And big thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped. Manscaped is the premier below the waist grooming company, although for males. Although I will say I've used their trimmer for my beard down to my balls. So I've used it everywhere. So again, the trimmer that they have, the lawnmower, I've used it. It's what I use to trim my beard now. And again, when I have to, if you're watching the video, you can see I'm pretty friggin' hairy. So when Jess trims me up a little bit sometimes, like if we're going down to the beach or something, so I don't have like,
she wants you to look presentable.
Well, she's not a huge fan of like carpet on top of the, she doesn't like me wearing my sweater under my clothes. And so, and for me, it's like, it's completely for vanity's sake. Like when, like you start trimming up your hair, you're like, man, I can see my abs better, hey, that's not bad. Right. It's so weird because I remember I was like, when I was leaning out for that last competition, I would be like, man, like as soon as I trim my stomach hair and chest hair, I was like, dude, like I can see all the definition way better.
Yeah.
I can understand why bodybuilders do this. But so when she trims it, like the beard trimmers, like, or the lawnmower super, it's got the safeguard technology on it. So she's trimming and she doesn't have to worry about nicks and cuts, which was not the case with like one of the old trimmers I had, which was like this big, like trimmer that would, cut me sometimes. And they also recently sent us this ultra smooth package, which is the shaving care for down there.
It's actually a razor.
It's a razor, and I imagine that it's being used to trim trim your nether region.
See what happens, Chewy.
So I'm gonna take one for the team on this one, and and I'm gonna take it home, and I'm gonna try to use it, and I'll let you guys know what I think about it. Because again, sometimes when you use some of the product, like it's dangerous business being down there doing stuff, like especially as a guy like that, you can't be just down there going willy-nilly with stuff.
Yeah, it's got a
like that's not a place
willy-nilly.
Well, that's not a place, for instance, like I have a safety razor, so like when I shave at home, I've got one of those like where you change the razor blade, but you have the metal razor, right? The actual metal thing. Lord, that's not a place I'd want to take that. So this is so they've got
it's got a crop exfoliator, crop gel, and then you get like a handle for the razor and 5 replacement blades.
I like that they refer to your hair as the crop, and then they call it the lawnmower. It's funny. It's like you're growing like a garden down in your pants. It's
pants garden.
You can pants garden.
Mow your pants garden.
Trim your garden. But anyway, I'm a big fan of the products. Everything that I've used so far. So again, when we first had them on as a sponsor, I was like ball trimmers, like whatever. But as I've used them as been using their products, and again, anything that we bring on the podcast is always something we've used first. Everything that I've used so far has been really good. I've been a fan of it. Everything from their cologne down to their sprays and down to their lawnmower and their gadgets, really high quality stuff. It's good. It works. And even like some of the little features that I didn't understand at first, like the light and things like that, they actually are actually useful. So again, if you're looking for a new trimmer, if you want to get maybe some stuff if you're for yourself or for that special man in your life.
I think
Father's Day is coming up, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. You can get them some stuff from there. Again, it's good quality stuff. I'm a big fan of all of it. So if you want to check them out, you can go to manscaped.com. Promo code is jiu-jitsu20. You'll save 20% off the order, and you'll get free shipping as well. And guys, if you want to support the podcast as well as get a bunch of really cool stuff content wise, check out our patreon.com/. I cannot speak today. Those words are hard to say. I'm going back to my 5-year-old self when I had to go back to the speech classes.
Classes at the
trailer in the back.
The trailer in the back of the school.
Bro, that's a real thing, bro.
That's awful.
Why is it awful? I don't.
Why? You're not good enough to be at the main school.
I would be in the main school, but then they
send you to the
for
special trailer.
for 30 minutes a day or whatever. Yeah.
Don't justify it. It's evil.
Why is it evil?
Teachers.
It helped me out.
Fine.
I don't mess with my wolves anymore.
But why does it have to be a trailer in the back of the school?
Because that's where they had room for it. Well, like those buildings are old, bro. They were built in like those schools. You look at them, they were probably built in like 1930. It's like, where else are you going to put it? You can't add on to it. It's brick. It's like this old brick. I mean, you can add on to it, but it's just going to look tacky.
I got you.
Just back off, bro.
Look. All right, man. Sorry, it's a sensitive subject for you.
It is a sensitive subject. I'm losing it, man. I'm losing it. I'm going backwards.
You're losing that steam.
I'm reverting. But no, if you want to go to our patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. You can go in there. We have everything from podcast extras with the guests. We have things like narrated jiu-jitsu rolls, full rolling videos. There's warm-up routines, stretching routines, all this different stuff. It's a membership, of course, so you pay a couple bucks, whatever, to get it, but you can always cancel it anytime. And again, you can check out that, you can get access to it and jump in there. And we are starting to do a few things with it. One of which is we give preferential treatment to the people that ask questions from the Patreon. And you also get some different videos and things like that we upload to there. So again, if you want to check that out, you can go to that website, patreon.com/jiu-jitsu podcast, and join up. And so guys, with that said, let's jump into the podcast. All right, guys, what's up? So today, I figured we would start a new sort of segment with the podcast from time to time when we're talking. And essentially, these will be sort of rules for jiu-jitsu or rules for BJJ, or grappling maxims, if you will. I like the word maxim. Maxims. Yeah. So basically, some ideas to chew on that are pretty much always present. And for me, a lot of these that I've written down are ones that are obviously pretty much constant in jiu-jitsu, but they also have some carryover value off the mats as well. And so we're going to start off with the first one. And again, this one's really important, but the rule is that BJJ is a marathon. Right? Very simple. It's a very simple idea. And we know what that means, but in the podcast, they will talk about what that means and also talk about some strategies and some things like that you can use to deal with the marathon stuff that, again, I've been grappling for 20 plus years at this point. At the time of recording, I've been grappling for over 20 years, right? Because I started in early 2001 and been going in wrestling and been doing jiu-jitsu ever since. So again, you got to do some different things to kind of keep going.
What do you think your life? I know we're going to get a little off topic here, but what do you think your life would be like if you didn't do jiu-jitsu or grapple?
It wouldn't be good. I don't think that I didn't, like, with the people that I met through jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
If I had not met those people, my life would have been not so good. It wouldn't have been terrible, but I think I probably would have stayed and lived in a not so good neighborhood. I don't think I would have done as well for myself financially, and I think I would have been fairly miserable.
Yeah, because you had a job before you started jiu-jitsu. You had this I
had jobs.
I had like a desk job.
Kinda. Yeah, but even then, it's like I would have just what I would have done. Who knows? Because it's like it's so hard to.
I'm just curious.
I became an adult as I started wrestling.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's like I started wrestling when I was getting into my early teens, and then became an adult with jiu-jitsu. It's so hard to understand where I would have gone.
Right.
But I don't think it would have been all that great.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just curious, like what were some people's lives been like without jiu-jitsu? It's kind of interesting. And you kind of see that in some ways before people start jiu-jitsu. Many are like, the popular quote is jiu-jitsu saved my life. And I mean, I guess there's some truth. And for some people, it's very true. I think it gets used a lot, but for some people,
it's a little cliche.
It is, but I think for some people, we've had some examples in the gym.
Yeah.
I think definitely some truth there.
But jiu-jitsu didn't save anyone. People use jiu-jitsu to save themselves. Right. So it's not like sometimes people will come up to me and say, Chewy, you're the reason I signed up for jiu-jitsu. I get that a lot. Right. Because people will see the videos and they'll come in like, hey, Chewy, I watched your videos and I started training. You're the reason I'm here today, or the reason why I'm training. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, you're here because you did it. All I did was maybe give you a little bit of a nudge forward. Right. And so if you come into jiu-jitsu and if it changes who you are, well, then you are ripe to be changed. You just hadn't found the right thing yet. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Like, I mean, for me, you have to, for any seed to take root, the soil has to be fertile. Right. And so again, like you could give jiu-jitsu to some person that doesn't want to learn it, and they're not going to get anything from it. But when the person is ripe for the teachings and they're ready for the community or whatever that might change them, they're ready for it. Well, then it's something. There's something there. But if that person's not ready, it doesn't matter. Right. It's kind of like what we're going to get into that too. Like, what's your vision? Like, what are you seeking for jiu-jitsu? Like, what do you want to accomplish in jiu-jitsu? And some people don't even know, but it's something worth getting into. So let's jump into it. So jiu-jitsu is a marathon. So when I say that, we all know what that means, but basically a lot of times the other cliche thing is that it's true, but a black belt is a white belt that never quit. Now let's get rid of the arbitrary idea of a black belt. Let's just talk about someone who's really good. Let's just say it that way. Everyone that was really good at jiu-jitsu sucked at first, right? Yes. That's one of the quotes. It says to be good at anything, you first have to, I think it's a Goethe quote, but I think it's like to be good at anything, you have to be okay with, being bad at it first. They'll say like, before you can be the expert or be the whatever it is, you have to first be okay with being the fool. Right. Yeah. You got to be okay with that. That's just the way it is. Right. And when you get into jiu-jitsu, you're going to suck at first, just like everyone else. And it's going to be very difficult at first, just like everything else. But you have to keep going. You have to continue on. And perseverance is the name of the game. Yeah. If you can persevere, you can be good at this stuff. That's really the thing that determines it. Talent, especially in jiu-jitsu, I've seen it as a coach so many times and even as a competitor and a person just on the mats as a student, you see people that come in with like really great innate talent when they first start. And a lot of times those people aren't the ones that stick around, right? Because what happens a lot of times, it looks like, is like these people come in with a lot of talent and they initially have this, like, they kind of go forward. So let's say you got two grapplers, grappler A, grappler B. Grappler A comes in, has a lot of talent. Grappler B doesn't. Grappler A comes in, beating the crap out of grappler B, feels pretty good. Grappler B starts to train hard, and then maybe Grappler B beats Grappler A. And all of a sudden, then it's like now they have to actually learn how to work hard. Yeah. And sometimes the talent doesn't work hard. It's like another quote, just throwing them out there. What is it? It's hard work beats talent when talent refuses to work hard. Right. And it's the truth. Like, you can be okay. You can be all right. And you'll be eventually very good if you can just continue to grind and work. But again, and if you're talented and you have hard work ethic, that's the magic right there. That's where you have like world beaters on your hands.
Yeah. I think when you are talented and you're committed, I think the learning curve is less. I mean, you catch on a lot quicker. Your body. Yeah, it's less at first, and I think sometimes it's an easier way to almost get addicted to jiu-jitsu because you're not the nail for as long. You almost you can kind of develop your skills, your techniques a little more quickly. And I think you learn, because some people get really discouraged early on.
It can be, but the problem is that if that person who's talented does not learn how to grind later on, because it's going to happen. Like, no matter how talented you are in the beginning, you're probably going to start running into people who are going to just like be able to beat the brakes off.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn how to deal with that. And so it can be a good thing.
Yeah. I think adversity
can also be a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's how you respond to it. Yeah. Okay.
But, to get through this, so here's some ideas and again, I'm not telling you if you train, I'm not telling you anything you don't know already. So like, just sort of stating that out there. We're talking about getting good at jiu-jitsu. It's going to take a long time. Perseverance is needed above all else. So let's talk about some things that you can do to persevere through jiu-jitsu and essentially take place in the marathon that is jiu-jitsu rather than it being a sprint. So one of the things that there's the old saying that the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially to imply anytime you have a large task in front of you, the best way to do it is one small chunk at a time. But I was thinking about this, when you think about that idea, right? Like when you bite something, when you eat something, there's taste associated with it. There's flavor there. You might be enjoying the nourishment coming from the food or the sweetness that's there. There's something there for you every time you bite into something and eat it, right? But when it comes to things like long-term tedious things at times, or long-term things that have no real end in sight, it's very difficult to continue forward, because again, there a lot of times isn't a pat on the back every time you do something. There's no, it's another day of training, another day of work, another, session, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's always this way. And this is kind of getting off into, off the mat stuff. But one of the things, for instance, that I do, and I'll tie this in just a second for you guys, is whenever I'm dealing with like a long-term work project that I have, or anything that I'm doing, and then we'll talk about the jiu-jitsu, how this pertains, is because I have so much stuff on my plate, and because I probably have like a touch of ADD, I do a lot of different things to try to manage it. So one thing is I work in like 33-minute blocks. There's a copywriter years ago named Eugene Schwartz, and I don't know how he came to the 33 mark, because that's what he said he would work in. But I like it. So I was like 33 minutes, 33 seconds. And so I work in blocks there, and then I take a break.
How long a break?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Just a few.
What do you do? What's like a break?
Who knows? I might get up and just get out I might even take 10 minutes for a walk, go outside and walk around the property. Mm-hmm. I might sit down and just kind of shake it off. I might go get us some water. I might like look at something on Instagram for a second, just a few minutes, and then I get back to it. And then I time myself. I take the timer and set the timer ready to go. Okay. Right. And these little blocks of time give me essentially a bite. Right. I've got a bite now. Right. So instead of like what defines a bite? How long is it? It's 33 minutes. That's my bite. And every time I get that work done, there's some satisfaction associated with like grinding it out for that little chunk of time, and then boom, doing the work. Good. I have to-do lists with very short-term goals, and they get longer, but a lot of times little things I can check off throughout the day. I'm getting that satisfaction of knocking that off the list. And so those things like short-term goals and to-do lists and using a timer and things like this, they give me bites associated, essentially. And so jiu-jitsu, you want to give yourself the same thing. You want to give yourself some bites, because again, it's a big thing. Jiu-jitsu is a big old elephant. And again, eating it one bite at a time, you don't really know, because again, jiu-jitsu is a marathon, but again, it's kind of like a never ending marathon, because it's never done. Mm-hmm. You're always going continuously. And so you've got to do things to, continuously give yourself things to go for. So the thing I like to do in jiu-jitsu is find different ways to sort of give myself bites. Now, these bites could be simply a competition, right? Give myself some goals to shoot for. It could be a competition coming up. Could be a particular technique or position I'm trying to hit. So maybe I give myself a goal to, all right, today when I roll today, I'm going to try to hit 3 arm bars from this position I've been working. Or maybe I've been getting to, like for instance, I was rolling recently and I was doing a bunch of 50-50 stuff. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Then my goal today is I'm going to try to get to 50-50 from a back mount escape 3 or 4 times today. I have a few setups for it, right? And so, all right, this is what I'm going to try to do today. And so you do these things, you have these goals, and when you leave, you're like, okay, you took a little bite today because you did something intentionally. There was intentional, like something or other to it. Where you could have went into a gym and trained and got a lot of good stuff out of it, but because you didn't really know what you were after, you don't really know. Because we can go into the gym and it's very easy to just go with the flow. And so giving yourself some things to focus on, just like, like I'm talking about with my work, being very intentional with what I'm doing. Same thing with the mats, right? Being very intentional with what you're doing, break it down into chunks, whether it be getting to the position, submitting people with a particular movement. Maybe it's just making it 3 rounds. Maybe you're brand new in jiu-jitsu and you're like, all right, man, every time I roll, I get exhausted and I have to take a round out. Okay, well, now we're going to try to roll 2 consecutive rolls. Or, hey, maybe you've been rolling for a little bit. We're going to try to do the whole rolling session without taking 1 round off. There's little things you can do like that can give you some satisfaction, and also they can represent a very small thing in sort of the greater whole of jiu-jitsu, right? So that's the first thing, is to think of the elephant biting, like breaking it down at one time at a time. Have little small goals that you can chase on the mat regularly. So this way you have something to shoot for, rather than it just being some random, all right, I'm training today. What are you doing? It would be like going to the gym and like, all right, what are you working today? I don't know. I'm just going to like grab this weight and that weight. I'm going to do this and that. Like you have no goal. You have no focus on what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
So the second thing,
I would attribute that actually like lifting weights. Like if you go to the gym, you just do random shit. Like you don't have like, I'm not going to do 3 sets of 15 or 4 sets of whatever. And I'm not going to incrementally, I'm not going to keep track of my weight. I'm going to randomly pick up random weights. I'm going to do some movements. I'm going to go to this thing, do that. And then by the time it's all said and done, you've kind of not done anything of value or use. And also when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's like, are you going to make progress? Like, is your physique going to be better? Are you going to be stronger? Maybe some, but not nearly if you're intentional, like say today's my leg day or today's my push day or pull day.
Or even thinking like weeks in advance, right? So imagine you go into the gym and you never keep track of all your lifts. So you're lifting for like months, right? And like, you're like, am I getting stronger? Who knows? Because I haven't tracked anything. Gotcha. I haven't kept track of my lifts. I don't know. It's all up in the air, right? Okay. You're not being intentional about it at all. And this happens all the time in jiu-jitsu because you'll hear people talk about, oh man, I'm hitting a plateau. And every time I ask someone, I'm like, well, what are you working on right now? No, there's your reason, right? Yeah. You're not being intentional about your training, because training in itself is fine, but the training that transforms you is not just fooling around. It's very intentional. Right? Like you look at like the idea of deliberate practice. That's the magic, right? Not just practice, not just showing up and like, I'm here today. Good. That could be sometimes if you're having a really rough day, but deliberate practice, meaning you get in there, you have something that you're really shooting for. That's where the magic is, right? So for instance, if you're playing a song on an instrument, right? And you're trying to get better at that song, let's say that you can play the song immaculately well up until like a certain point, and there's this like 15 seconds of that particular song you struggle with because of the position of the music or whatever. Well, what would be better for you to get better at that song? Play the whole song through or focus on the 15 seconds? Probably 15 seconds, because we're going to try to make that better, right? We're going to try to get to that part. And so the same thing, like you can give yourself goals and step in the gym and then force yourself to do different stuff. Right. And, try different things, or just if you're working your A game, just being very intentional. I'm using my best stuff today, and I'm going to try to hit as many times as I can. It's important. The second thing, and this kind of goes along with this, you got to do fun things to shake things up a little bit. You got to do something new, something fun. So this is the idea of like novelty and creating fascination. So in the book by Angela Duckworth called Grit, she talks about the idea that a lot of times people who are, as we would define, gritty, more mentally tough, people that can persevere in something for a longer time, they a lot of times have a fascination with what they're doing, right? It's not, they're not picking some task that they're like just ultimately bored with and then just doing it. They're doing something that they're fascinated with, and that fascination, helps fuel the passion and the interest that they have, that then allows them to be more gritty towards it. Because again, if it's something that you think is really interesting and fun, it's kind of easy to stick with it for a long time. If it's something you're like, God, this is so boring, right? I mean, again, it's very easy to drop off. So one of the things you can do is create newness in it. So for instance, you can do things like new positions, new techniques. You can go get a new instructional DVD, like look for some new ideas. You could go get a new gi, new rash guard, any of that stuff. Any of that stuff can be awesome for fueling some creativity. Like for me, with with some of the stuff I do, like I remember I got some new cameras for the YouTube channel. I was all excited to do videos because it was new. When we got to the property Jess and I own now, right? It's like got our couple acres or 3.5 acres, got all this new stuff we got to fiddle with. It's fun. Yeah. Like on the weekends, I'm working on the land. I'm like, all right, what are we going to do today? We're going to work on the garden there. We're going to see where we're going to put the chickens, and we got to do this thing, whatever, and we're going around. We're like, we've got this app on the phone where we're like mapping out, like, or being able to see what the trees are.
Oh, nice.
So because you can identify them with pictures, but this thing, just take it and you take a picture of the leaves and it'll be like, this is an American sycamore. This is a hedge apple tree. This is an oak.
So crazy.
Yeah. It's so neat. So we're going around, what kind of tree is this one? We kind of take a look, and all this different stuff. There's newness, there's novelty to it. A lot of times with some of the different work that I do, I'll buy products and courses on it. Like I need something new to just give me some different ideas. I want to just give me something to play with. I'll do that. And with my jiu-jitsu, it's the same thing. I'm always working on something because I like to have something new to chase after. So I was like, that looks cool. Let me try that. Let me play around with that. And sometimes it's not very complicated stuff. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was playing with this simple shin-in position, where basically I can use it to counter people's cut-through passes, and it'll put me into a great position for half guard or butterfly guard. and I was using it. I was going with all the guys that had cut through passes, and I'd let them get to the cut through pass, and just so I could use it and get them into my my butterfly guard and half guard. I wasn't even trying to sweep them. I would keep letting them try to get to the cut through and just see if I could stop it. But giving me something to work towards created some newness and novelty. And so again, one of the things that you can do to create more fascination, which again helps with perseverance. It's easy to persevere when you're fascinated with something, when it's fun, to throw some newness into it. Even like you today with the we got that new gadget over there for the podcast, right? Yeah. All excited. Oh, we got something new to play with, right? Yep. Like it's fun.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one thing is like, if you look at old techniques, revisiting old techniques, and maybe, for one great example is cross collar chokes or collar chokes, very basic stuff like an X choke. We had Muhammad Ali do a seminar and stuff we already done, but he showed us one little tweak, try this tweak. And then we started going for these chokes from basic positions, closed guard, just basic positions that we've done them before, never really had much success, but we did a little tweak and it's like, oh, I can see the effectiveness there. Yeah. And so we'd start playing around with these chokes that we've had in the arsenal for years, which are some chokes you learn as a white belt beginner, like one of the first positions, from closed guard, lapel chokes, very simple. But a lot of times it's like, it's not as effective once you get up the ranks, people are more privy to it. So being able to switch it up, a new setup to a position you're already, or a new entry. Those are things that I think are kind of valuable. Like just getting into stuff into a different position. So like finding a new way, like you said, get into 50-50 from some other avenue or some other direction, just finding a new route. I think that's kind of, it makes that position fun, cause like I would look with loop chokes. I would like, what I did, I kind of got good at it from certain positions. I was like, let me see if I can hit it from here. If I can do this setup, if I can set it up in a unique way. And it gave me some insight into just like, it was fun again to play with that. And also catch people off guard. You kind of renew a position.
Yeah, because now you're having to chase the same thing, but in a more difficult, challenging
way.
Sure.
And just anything. Like, I mean, I think I've been going through leg locks. I don't get a ton of work with leg locks. I only do no-gi, very rarely, but just to my schedule. But when I get to, I've been playing around with that. I've been playing around with with leg locks a little bit, just entries and defense and getting myself in positions. Just because it's another layer to the game. It's something you have to know anyways, but it's just makes it fun. It makes because I'm so gi heavy, I'm so used to grips. It's like, well, all right, what can I do? How can I attack differently? I did, and sometimes you'll get it from other people putting it on you. Like Justin Court, when we first came back from not training for a while, he was hitting me with like guillotines and head and arm stuff. And I was like, and it lit a fire under me because I was getting worked by it. And I was like, so now it's one of my things I'm working a lot, especially in no-gi. Yeah. I use it a lot for attacks and passing. So, and that made me excited. Sure. Something new to kind of just dive into.
Yeah. So find stuff that's new that creates novelty in the game and everything else. And that's the idea. Because it'll help create that sort of fascination that helps kind of keep you going. Yeah. Another one is having a clear vision for why you must do something.
Okay.
Like not why you need to do something, why you must do it. Right.
What do you mean by must?
You must do it. You have to do it. There's no choice. Right. Like, so there's these ideas, right? Like that pop into everyone's head. We've all been there when your mind begins to waver. And when that happens, you got to figure out a reason as to why you have to do it. It can't be like, well, I probably need to do it. Why you have to do it right now. Right. Because again, there's times that are going to be challenging to all of us. And for instance, when I first started doing wrestling in high school, I was terrified of wrestling. I signed up my very first year of high school, didn't do it because I was too scared to do it. Second year, I ended up doing it with a bunch of football players. Only reason I did football was because I was lifting weights and in the weight rooms, and one of the coaches was like, hey, or I might have been in detention. I can't remember. It's been so long. But one of the coaches was like, hey, you're a big kid. Come play football. And so I did. And so I was nervous for so many of those experiences. I remember the first time we put on our pads in football and we knew we were going to hit each other that day. Nervous wreck. I felt like almost like I was like trapped in that damn helmet, just like getting ready to, we're walking down the field, man. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I remember the first time we actually wrestled on the mats, super nervous. First wrestling match I had, nervous. crazy nervous. First MMA fight, holy crap, super nervous. I mean, all these things. And even during some of the training sessions, I remember going sometimes to the gym, both for jiu-jitsu and MMA sessions, and my stomach would be in knots. I'd be so friggin' nervous. Like, I mean, I literally would be driving the car, nervous as can be, getting ready to go train. And, but again, it was one of those things where I wasn't going to back down from it. I had to do it. You know, for instance, like sometimes, like most of the time what it was is I was chasing either a vision or I was running away from another vision. So if it was a vision I was chasing, I was thinking about being the gold medalist, seeing myself on the podium, seeing myself winning the MMA fight with a hand raised, you know, seeing myself being really good at something, that kind of thing, chasing that vision of what I wanted. Yeah. But just as equally as I was getting away from the person I didn't want to be. So for instance, when I was in high school, I didn't want to be the fat, overweight kid who got beat up when he was a kid and was very unconfident and whatever. I was like, I want to be good at something. You know, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be this way. And so I was going after that. You know, I mean, I remember even like when, because some of you guys know that listen to the podcast, I got jumped when I was a kid. And so I was terrified just to get out and walk around down the street. Well, there was a summer where I would get up every morning. My junior year, summer going into senior year, I wanted to lose weight for wrestling. So one of the things that I did is I'd get up every morning and go run. Right. And I wouldn't run too far, but I would just run around my block. So I would run around the block like for like a couple hours, just, you know, for about an hour and a half, you know, or not, I wouldn't say hour and a half, but hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Okay. I'm not running super fast, by the way. It's a very light jog. I've never been a fast, like long distance runner. I can sprint okay, but I've never been a fast long distance runner. So I would just run, you know, 45 minutes to an hour around the block. I was like a couple hours. I wasn't running a couple hours, 45 minutes to an hour around the block multiple times. And, but I remember there was this barrier, bro. I remember this experience where I was walking out. And so in the backyard, we had this like big, long rectangle. You would leave our back landing, go down the stairs, and you would walk out, and then you would be in grass, and then there was a fence, and then you'd open up the gate, and then you'd be on a gravel where we'd park our car, and then keep going, and you had the alley where the gravel met. The gravel would be right there, and the alley was. I remember there was that line. And I remember like the first morning I could try to do it. I was sitting there, like my foot was like getting ready to move along. I'm terrified because I got jumped just down like 2 houses down from my house when I was walking home from school one day when I was 11. Right. And I'm at this point 16, or I was probably 17 years old 6 years ago, but it's still with me. You know, I'm like still scared. I'm like, okay, all right. You know, just like talking, I probably sat in front of that damn line for probably 3 or 4 minutes, just staring at it. And then I stepped over and just started running, you know, because what I was thinking about during that 3 or 4 minutes was like, I don't want to be that kid anymore. I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to be overweight. I want to be in shape. I want to be good at wrestling. I want to win things, you know, and like, what do you got to do those things? I was like, well, you know, I got to do all the things that I see other people doing. And one of them was, you got to be in better shape. I was like, all right, then that's what I got to do. Right. And so I wanted to do that more than I wanted to give into the fear. Right. And so I was like, I got to do this. I have to do this. If this is what I want, I bolted and ran. I was like, and that first time I ran, dude, I remember I was so nervous. You know, I was running and my head was on the swivel, constantly looking around. I was super hyper vigilant. And then over time, it became normal. Every morning I get up, I go for my run 5 days a week, get up and go for my run. And I ended up losing like 30 pounds over a summer. You know, I remember I came back and everybody was like, what the hell happened to you? You know what I mean? Like, but every time I'd get done running, I'd feel so satisfied with that, you know, and there's my small bite out of it was the run. But more importantly is I knew why I was doing it, right? It wasn't just I was supposed to run because I was supposed to. It was I was running because of this. I could see myself on the podium because I remember all my buddies getting on the podium and wrestling. I wanted that too. I wanted to be up there with all the guys because the team was pretty good and we had a lot of winners. I wanted to be up there too. I wanted to have the gold medal around my neck. I wanted to be in shape. I wanted all those things. And that's what I was chasing. And at the same time, I knew what I was running from, which was I didn't want to be this person anymore. So I was like, I was chasing this, getting away from this. And so, you know, whatever it is that you're chasing, we're all different. You may have not had the situation that I did, but you probably have something you want. Nobody comes into jiu-jitsu just because. They're like, you know, I'm here. If you probably have a deeper reason that you don't even know about yet. Yeah. Everybody comes in though, right? Like when you get deep down to everybody comes in because they want something. They don't really necessarily know it at the time, but they want something. Figure out what that is and have that clear vision of what you want from this thing. So again, when you're training, you know why you're doing it. And so when it comes down to those moments of like, you know, I need to go to the gym or whatever. And you can do this for anything in your life. You know, when it comes down to when you get to these challenging situations, you got to know what you're chasing. Otherwise, it's very easy to succumb to to quitting and giving in. But when you know why you're doing something, bro, like if you get a good reason as to why you're doing something, bro, you can keep going. It's the Nietzsche quote, right? And again, I'm butchering it, but he who has his why can bear any how. If you know why you want something, you can figure out the how, you can endure it, you can do whatever. But if you have your why, you're good.
Yeah. You think that's maybe one of the most important pieces is your why? And you've asked me that before, when I've done videos and I ask your advice and you're like, well, what's your why? Like, what is the reason for this? Like,
why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this? Yeah. Because otherwise you're not going to have any type of direction.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm curious. So you wrestled for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do your first year wrestling?
Oh, I did terrible. I lost my first match, won my second match. They were like less than 4 days apart. I lost my first match. My coach put me in against this like senior.
Yeah.
And I remember I remember looking there and he just like snapped me down and I fell over like a dead cockroach. I just like laid on my back and got pinned real quick. Yeah. It was like 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
My second match, we went back and forth. I pinned the guy in the second period, which is like maybe about 3.5 minutes in was when I pinned him. And, I got up and I was wheezing so bad. My coach called me Tugboat.
That's right.
Because I was like, and Tugboat became my nickname. And then after that, wrestle-offs happened, which in wrestling, you only get like one person per bracket. So you don't get to put like, it's not like jiu-jitsu tournaments where they'll have like 3 people for the same bracket. Like there's one. That's it. When you go to the high school like wrestling meets, it's one person per the team.
Sure.
And so we were wrestling off for the varsity spot. I was just told I had to do it. Like you didn't really have a choice. If you were in that weight class, you had to do it. And so I wrestled and I ended up going against one of the seniors and he like threw me and I landed on my shoulder and had like a separation in my shoulder and had to go to the school with like for about 2 weeks with a sling. And, my wrestling season was essentially over. I would go to the wrestling practices and hang out. But I was pretty depressed for a while.
Yeah, but you knew your why. That's what I'm getting at. It's like you didn't really get discouraged. You kind of found, I think maybe you found you found your why and you found the path. Like this is the way to get out of feeling certain ways or building confidence. Because think about it. You're coming in, you're out of shape. You're kind of like you're a sophomore or whatever. A lot of older kids, stronger, more athletic, what have you. And you're kind of out of shape and you're going in and you win some, you lose some, and then you get injured, right? Some people would say, well, screw this. I'm out. Like, this is not for me, but I think you saw something maybe in wrestling and I don't know what it was, but you saw something that connected with you that gave you that idea that it could be your direction to coming out of, feeling, not confident, not feeling like, I guess maybe it was a way for you to reach your potential or you saw it as an avenue to reach your potential.
I'll tell you what I think it is. I think one of the things that maybe I do well naturally without having to think about it too much is I observe people very closely. I watch people. Like it's just one of those things. Like I'm genuinely interested in people. So like, for instance, like if someone meets me, I will probably start asking you questions. It's not because I'm doing it out of a phony sort of whatever. It's because I'm genuinely interested in people, right? I like knowing about them. Like we'll go through the checkout line at like Trader Joe's. And before we're done, all of a sudden I know who this person is, where they came from, where they were born, just all this kind of stuff, just because we start talking and stuff comes out. Right. And everyone's their own favorite subject, so again, and I like hearing about it. But I also watch people, and when there's people that I admire or that I like or that I would like to be more like, I watch very closely what they do, right? Not what they say, but what they do. And I observe that. I take notice of that, right? So like, for instance, like if I walk into someone's house, I'm like, what books are they reading? What kind of things do they have set up? What's their relationship with their significant other? All these different things. You just look at it. And so I looked at all these guys in the gym, in the wrestling mat, and they were guys I liked. They were strong. They were in shape. They were confident. They were all these things. There was something about it. Plus I like the brotherhood aspect of it that we had. And so I was like, I want to be like this. I want to be like more like these guys. I like this. Right. And so, even I got hurt and I was very depressed about it. Like, because it was like, I was enjoying myself wrestling. I couldn't wrestle, so I was very depressed. Couldn't even lift weights because I couldn't even do really any shoulder presses. It took me a while to get back. And, but I would come into the wrestling mat and I would just kind of observe everything that was going on and watch what people were doing and, just following their example afterwards. And it would even I remember by the end of the year, I was still running stairs with people, I couldn't really wrestle, but I was running stairs just because that's what we were doing for cardio. So I do our cardio, like running and stuff like that, just so I could be around.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was a good environment. I felt good there. I liked the brotherhood and the camaraderie that existed, but I also wanted to let it rub off on me. And I didn't do this knowingly. This is something that I do it now very consciously. At the time, it was unconscious. So that's why I did that, I believe.
No, that's a great reason.
So
I think it makes sense because, sometimes you'll do something because you feel like you're supposed to, or like it's just everybody else is doing it. But you found, I think, inspiration or like, I like this, what they're doing. I like why they're doing it, and I think you see it as an avenue just for improving yourself. So, I mean, yeah, makes sense.
And then the next one for you guys, and hopefully this is useful, is to pace yourself. This is something where, like, for instance, in jiu-jitsu, I have this thing I call the shooting star students. These are the guys that come in who are incredibly enthusiastic. They train. They go from never training to training like 5-6 days a week. They get a million gis, rash guards, the whole thing, and then they putter out. Too soon, too fast, too often. I'm not saying you can't do that and succeed, because maybe you can, but there is something to spacing things out a little bit. For instance, like if you have a good song, right? You can take a song that you're absolutely in love with, a song that you love, and just butcher it by playing it too much, and to the point where you never want to hear it again. But if you give it some downtime, you can have a song that you can hear. Man, I love that. I love that song, right? It comes on, rather than turn that crap off. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. You can do this with anything. You can love something, and if you wear it out too much, it can be a bad thing. You gotta give it space. Even me as a person that I essentially train for a living. I teach and train people for a living. I give my training time and space. I don't always train every single day. You can't, because then you start to burn out. There's plenty of coaches out there that are burnt out from coaching and teaching and training because they never gave themselves time to relax or to rest or for downtime, so to speak. And so for people in jiu-jitsu, one of the things that's very important is give yourself a little downtime. Even a little rest sometimes goes a long way. It's like people before competitions. I tell them to rest. You can drill if you want to, but just don't roll for a little bit. Let your body recover. If you're training really, really hard multiple days a week, it's a nice thing to let your body rest and recoup, instead of trying to kind of continuously push it. Because one, you'll run into things like obviously physical fatigue and increased risk of injuries, but you'll also run into issues with mental fatigue, and you'll start getting worn down. And I mean, those are like legit, like measurable things. Like if you look at like physical exhaustion and basically overtraining, so to speak, and like basically fatigue in the body, it can lead to things like depression and, it's temporary, of course,
sure.
But depression and irritability and things like that. And so it's good to like space some training out. Because you can get to the point where you're training so hard because you felt like you just hear everybody talking about grinding and getting after it, that you just start spinning the wheels, right? To me, it's like you can get really efficient training in and be really good at it and get after it, and you can have time to rest too. And it has a very valuable benefit to it. Because a lot of the stuff that you do off the mat is just as important as what you're doing on the mat. To me, this is just my opinion. Your jiu-jitsu is greatly influenced by your body, your health, your movement capability, all the attributes that you have, your mental state, all these different things. So there's the technical aspect, of course, right? Learning the techniques and stuff like that. Super, super, super important, right? Very, very important. But like when you get off the mat, do you go eat junk food? Right? You drinking all the time. You're not sleeping very well. You go to sleep at like 3 a.m. because you stay and play video games all night. Or you're partying all the time. You don't take time to like meditate or read or do anything to sort of improve your mindset and overall sort of thought process.
Yeah.
All these things come into it. These are all big, big things. And a lot of times you can overlook those by just, I'm going to train hard, go harder, right? Okay. Like you could do that, but you could probably get more from the same training if you gave yourself a little bit of rest and took better care of yourself off the mat. Even like stretching and things like that, super important. Stretching, or even just doing movement drills and things like that, things where you improve your ability and your range of motion and your capacity for movement.
Yeah.
Because when you think about jiu-jitsu is movement. This is why we have a guy that just started training at the gym. He's a gymnast.
Oh, that's cool.
He was a gymnast. He teaches gymnastics. The guy can move. We have another guy that's fighting right with us right now, and he's an amateur fighter right now, and he tumbles for fun. Like he can run up walls and flip and stuff like that. Cool. And you'll watch him grapple, And the dude can do things that people are like, what? How did he do that? It's like, because he's flexible and he's very mobile and he has a good idea of where he is and through space, right? So he has a good idea of his body being in weird positions. And that's you can't learn that from here, just do this technique, and there you go. It has to be something that you have to develop, and you develop it by doing movement. And so all kinds of movement stuff can be great, like auxiliary training for your jiu-jitsu training. And again, it's something that's not going to necessarily be fun because someone's trying to choke you, but it has a great benefit. So one of the things you could do is you could get more by being easy, like not pacing yourself on this end and then doing good stuff on the other end, like taking care of yourself when you leave the gym. So pacing yourself is important, because I've seen countless students come in, they're so excited and they just fizzle out because, they're so hyper excited. You cannot maintain that momentum forever.
Right.
And then they fizzle out, and it's always sad when it happens. And then you'll also, if you're just maybe a monetary person, if you're focused on finances and stuff, people like this will usually come in and they'll buy all the gis and they'll have to sell them at a discount. So they lose money on it. Yeah.
I think with the, yeah, come on, shooting stars, sell us your gis. We'll get them. I think for me, one of the, I guess, not having the ability, I've always, since I started training jiu-jitsu, I've always had other things that have been huge time sucks. Like I don't mean that in a bad way, but
becoming a doctor of physical therapy,
like being in school, having a wife and a family and stuff like that. Those aren't bad things. They're just part of the they
suck up a lot of time.
Yeah. And I think for me, whenever I got the opportunity to go train, I tried, and I'm not perfect. I didn't always do this, but I made the most of it. I knew that I have this limited amount of time. So if I drilled with intention, or I've got as many reps as I could. And I didn't do this all the time at all. Sometimes I'm bullshitting on the mats, like you see friends that you haven't seen in a while. You like to do that.
You can bullshit and still train.
For sure. But to me, I always valued it because I was always hungry to train. I was always like, I haven't trained in a couple of days. This is my day.
You're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. And I was, and you find that frequency. I think for everyone it's different. I think you find that frequency that's good to where you still feel sharp, your body still feels good, you're still eager to learn, you don't feel really burnt out, and you're developing your techniques. For a while there, I was at a point where I was training like 2 days a week, and it was just enough to kind of make small incremental improvements. But more than anything, I think 3 days a week is ideal for me. So if I could do 4, I would probably do more, but that's just all I could ever do.
Right. And
so for me, it was kind of very valuable. And that way, I just always kind of had an appreciation for when I'm on the mats and I get to, train. I think I valued it more, and it always kept me hungry. I never really got I was never eating to so I was so full. I always was a little bit hungry. I was always a little hungry for more. And then I wanted to ask you, as far as, rest and downtime, what did you like to do? As far as, was it always jiu-jitsu related? Because sometimes downtime could be, studying jiu-jitsu, studying techniques, watching videos. Did you do things outside of, obviously that are directly or indirectly related to jiu-jitsu, for example, gymnastics or movement, or stretching or joint training? Those are things, or even rehab or prehab type stuff to maintain your joint integrity and help your body stay together. What did you like to do as far as downtime? And I'm sure it's different from physical and mental fatigue.
When I was younger, I used to, just play video games when I first started. So that was not very useful.
You just disconnect though,
I guess, man. But just sitting down in a chair for hours is not the best thing for our hips.
Nope.
Not the best thing, our posture. So basically I'm just only furthering the problems from the muscular imbalances. So now, usually what I'll do now is I'll for instance, mentally disconnecting. I like to read. I like to go for walks. I like to go for instance, if I'm going to hang out with people, I'm gonna focus on those people. I'm gonna hang out with my girlfriend. I'm gonna focus on my girlfriend. My phone's not in my lap. We're gonna hang out and go do something. We'll go for a walk together. We'll go get dinner. We'll hang out with each other and spend some time together. Do other things and get my mind away from everything else and just focus on that thing, whatever that is. A lot of times where our minds are elsewhere.
Yeah,
we're doing something, but we're not even in that thing. It's being immersed in that thing that I'm doing at that time. That's always useful to me, because it's funny how if you get so into something for just a short time, all of a sudden your minds are recovered. You know what I mean? Meditation also is good for that. Just letting your mind recover. The physical part of it, as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit smarter about it. So again, if you're younger, sooner you can learn this, the better. taking the rest is important. Obviously, some people, if you've ever had to take a couple of days off, you might have your best training session ever after a couple of days off. Like, man, I feel great. But stretching is useful. I like to stretch. I know people can poo-poo on stretching. I like it. It's helped me out. Like during the COVID lockdowns, I was stretching every night, and I came back to the gym with a newfound hip mobility that I did not have beforehand. And it didn't come from anything else other than stretching. And then I was doing some lifting and doing squats, doing deep squats for slow eccentric tempos. So like really slow movement, so I could gain better movement ability. Wasn't worried about the weight. I was worried about my movement ability. And so now I have this ability for guard retention I didn't have before. That's pretty cool, you know? So there's that. There's also like movement drills. Like, so there's Gymnastica Naturale was the first time I started doing this stuff. And then there's a guy named Ryan who runs a place called or a website called GMB, goldmedalbodies.io. If you go on that website, he has a ton of different, basically he was a gymnast and a jiu-jitsu practitioner, right? So he's both. So he's a gymnast, judoka. He was I think he was like a pretty high level judoka, like for his like junior national level, whatever. And then he's a jiu-jitsu purple belt, I believe, might be brown belt. And he was a really good gymnastics. He may have been junior national gymnastics, and then he's like in judo and stuff. So he does all these movement drills. And basically, like, freaking guy can move amazingly well, and he's got a lot of courses. And so I have courses that I'm like, okay, let me try these things out, so I can sit there and move around. And I did that stuff during the COVID as well. You know, so I'm sitting there moving around and doing these movement drills, because to me, it's like, I don't, like, some people have asked me about doing like drills on a dummy. I don't want to drill with a stupid dummy, because the dummy, like, to me, it's boring as can be. I would rather develop new range of motions that I did not have prior doing these other things, that then I can just take and figure out, well, how can I use these now? I have new attributes that I've developed. Now I can take these attributes and figure out how I can use them in my sport. Whereas me just like repping out like on a dummy, I just get bored to tears. It's so boring. And most people that have dummies, like, I mean, if you use one, great, more power to you. But most people, they just sit around most of the time and collect dust. So, but you know, again, there's different things with that. And then eating a good diet, keeping my sleep schedule consistent. Right? Like, again, it's hard if you're like a new parent or something like that, or if you work crazy schedules, but if you can keep your sleep schedule consistent. I used to like sleep pretty consistently. Then on the weekends, I would mess it all up and stay up too late and then try to get back on Monday. So now I keep my sleep schedule pretty darn consistent. Even on the weekends, I only extend my uptime, usually with like maybe 4 exceptions a year, to like 1 hour, maybe later. So instead of 10:30, I'm going to sleep at 11:30 on the weekends. You know, but man, I feel so much better for it. And I feel like in sync all the time. Body feels good. I feel like energetic and ready to go. I don't need 17 cups of coffee. My diet's incredibly in tune. Like, I weigh my food and all that stuff. I know exactly what I'm eating. I meal prep. Those things are really important, because your body is the vehicle that sort of goes through this. It navigates jiu-jitsu. If it's in bad shape, you're going to be in bad shape. You can have all the technique you want to, but if your body's in bad shape, you're going to have trouble, you know? And again, even if you're young right now and you're getting away with having a sloppy diet and sloppy sleeping habits, it's fine. You can get away with it now. But as you get older, you'll find you probably have to dial that stuff in a little bit, because it's not as forgiving as you get a little bit older, you know? So that's some stuff that have changed.
Yeah. I think you take everything as you get older, you take everything, every advantage you can get, you start to take it, you know, you start to pull from all these different areas. Before, it's like, I feel good. I can beat my body up every day. I can eat, you know, and your body runs on.
You don't feel your body at the time.
Yeah.
Your body, like, you're not as in tune with your body, and you don't feel it as much as you
can
get older.
Overcome a lot more. Your body can kind of deal with a lot more bad stuff, bad diet, not great sleep, you know, all that stuff. It can compensate for all that stuff. And as you get a little older, it's not as resilient, you know. The one thing about stretching, and everybody poo-poo stretching, and because I think it's people don't know how to use stretching properly. I think a big thing about using stretching properly, or recovery work properly, is if you know how long to stretch, whether you stretch shorter times before, longer times after, but also the key thing that you did, and I don't know if you did this on purpose or it was just by happenstance you figured it out.
I did.
You may learn that you have more mobility, and then what you do once you regain that mobility, you strengthen in those new ranges.
You move in that.
So now you have control in those new ranges of motion. And so, like, I do this like functional range conditioning, which is like joint training. So I'll do like muscle energy technique where I'm trying to activate my muscles in these end ranges, increase my end range of motion. And then I'll go back and I'll try to strengthen in those planes, whether it's against gravity or using a little bit of light weight, or even going in and doing some lifting. But those type of things, like people always think, oh, I got to stretch like crazy before I go out. Well, if you do that, you're going to feel a little slow, and you're probably not going to have the same strength production. That's been shown that you actually, if you stretch for, I believe it's like 2 minutes or longer stretch times, you're not going to generate the same amount of force. You're going to have the same pop. So more of a dynamic stretching beforehand, and then like recovery stuff, because you're bringing, we talked about bringing your body back to resting, your resting rate. So longer hold times. If you're done, you're recovering. It's going to be less. You're going to be less sore. Those joints are going to kind of stay nice and loose. And but it's smart. You're figuring stuff out, and you're tinkering with your body, and you're trying to see what works. And the more capacity you have for movement, the less likely you'll be injured. But that's part of it. The other part is having control of that new range of motion. So if somebody has your arm in a, Americana or a Kimura, you have more range. It gives you a little more time maybe to tap, but also having some strength there can save you as well and make some more resiliency in your joints.
Yeah. So pace yourself with the jiu-jitsu training so you don't burn out. And then again, pay close attention to the things, that you do off the mat, which will be helpful. The last thing that I'll throw in is simply accepting failure as a currency you pay for progress with, right? So that's the thing. Like if you've done anything long enough, then you realize this is just it, right? If you've gotten decent at something, like I feel like this is one of the things, right? Like once you get good at something, you can pretty much get good at anything. Not saying you're going to be the best, but you can become okay at stuff, right? Because you know what the buy-in is. The buy-in is you're going to suck hard for a while and there's no way around it. That's just the way it is. But if you practice and you're deliberate about it and you focus on things, you can get good at it with time, right? It's just the way it is. You get very comfortable with just messing up, like with Jess and I, like we got this property and stuff. We were talking about this, and we were talking about some of the different projects we want to do. And she's more nervous about messing up. I'm like, oh, we're totally gonna mess up. I was like, we're gonna screw up so much stuff, but that's just it's okay. Like we're gonna fall flat on our face on a couple of these things, but so what? That's what we're supposed to do. That's how you learn. Right. And with jiu-jitsu, like, I mean, dude, so many times I screwed up, so many times I got submitted, but it's okay. That's just the way it is. And you cannot view like failures, setbacks, and all that stuff as like, they're not permanent. You just got to like roll with them. It's just what it is. You can not like them when you have them. You can be frustrated by them. If you do get frustrated by them, I was having a conversation with one of my students about this just today, because he's frustrated. He's like, I'm having a bad day on the mats, I was like, well, first off, I was like, are you alive? He said, yeah. I was like, are you healthy? Yeah. Can you come back tomorrow and train? He said, I was like, it's a damn good day. Because you could be sitting in like a friggin' hospital with it, like, mortal illness, getting ready to kick the bucket, but you're not. So you're okay. And then, I was like, be frustrated about it. I was like, but just leave here and think about what you can do tomorrow to get better. Yeah. There's always something from that. If you look at those failures and those experiences and the things that piss you off, look at them and like, what can I do to get better at this thing? What can I do to learn from this? Yeah. And that's the magic in it. Because if you can take that over to any aspect of your life, period. Whether it's jiu-jitsu, obviously is what we're talking about, but I've taken this to business, right? Like where like I try something out, flops. Maybe we run a marketing ad or something like that. It completely bombs. Yeah. We tweak a few things. Oh man, it did well. Oh, cool. We just had to change this. That was it. With our techniques, you try something out, bombs, it doesn't hit. So, okay, what happened? Oh, I was doing this thing here. I got to change this grip up a little bit. Boom. Now it's working. Cool. Same thing. And so the failure, though that frustration, that's just your buy-in. Again, it's once you get through a certain level of frustration early on, then the fun begins. Then you're playing the game and it's a lot of fun, but the frustration comes back. And you'll have this back and forth, and again, it's the sour that sort of gives you the appreciation of the sweet. Because if all you did in jiu-jitsu was win, it wouldn't even be interesting anymore. It'd be fun. It'd be boring, right? But because there's going to be this contrast where some days you're going to be the nail, some days you're going to be the hammer, like you can enjoy the both, right? But when you're the nail, when you're getting smashed, just make sure you're actually figuring out, what did I just do? What got me caught? How can I improve? What can I do to get better at this? Even as a white belt, I used to do this. Like me and my buddy, we would leave the gym. And, I already knew from wrestling, because I got good at wrestling by my senior year. And so I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu. I knew I was going to suck. I thought I would have been better than what I was. I thought I was going to be like close to blue belt maybe or something, no, it wasn't, not even close. And so I was getting submitted by everyone. I was like, all right, well, let's dig in. And, which I was happy about. I was like, these guys have this magic trick that I want to learn, called jiu-jitsu. And but we would leave the gym, my buddy Chris and I, and we would almost debrief each other. we would talk about like, all right, like, what did you get caught in? Oh man, I got caught in this. What did you try that movie work? Yeah, I tried that. How did it work? It didn't work, whatever. We would like talk about what happened that day. And we would always have, through talking about it, we would be able to debrief each other, so to speak. And then by the next day, we would come back with some ideas to work on. Now, you may not carpool with your buddy, but in your head, you can replay the rolls, the matches, the things, the experiences, your mindset, all those different things throughout the day. And like, okay, what could I work on? What's something I could have done better today that I could take in tomorrow? Right. And that's being deliberate instead of being, I got submitted, frustrating, I'm pissed off. So, okay, I got submitted, I got smashed. What did I do wrong? What's something I could do better? And again, thinking about that makes a big difference. And so you got to do that. But again, when you shape the failures as like a blow to who you are as a person and you take them too personal, you can't learn from them. It's too emotional. But when you can separate yourself from who you are versus what you do or what you've done, they're not the same thing. Then you can go, oh, okay, messed up. What I learned from it, right? And again, if you understand that the failure is just sort of your buy-in for this whole thing, it's very easy to look at it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to fail. That's supposed to happen. Duh. Of course, I got smashed by all the guys down on the mat. Cool. What could I have done better though? Could I've tightened up a little bit? But when you understand it like that, it's not so hard to accept. Yeah. So for some reason, people they don't realize they're going to get crushed, and when they get crushed, then they get bummed out about it. But when it's going to happen, for instance, I've got a little bit of an injury. The other day we were doing a wrestling class, and one of the guys that was teaching the wrestling class, the techniques he showed were smooth as can be, really good. But he, at one point, I think he told me he was so used to, he has this one guy that he normally does classes with, his college wrestling buddy, being his uke essentially. And so he's like, I'm so used to having this guy. It's almost like a performance. It's like an act, right? And on cue, he went for this thing, and I wasn't ready for it. So he did a headlock hip toss. I wasn't expecting it. And so I wasn't prepared to be thrown, right? Because when you get thrown and you're going to be thrown, or it's a possibility, you prepare.
Sure. Well,
I was like, literally like he's talking about something. I'm following his instructions, listening to him intently. And all of a sudden, boom, I got thrown and I sprained my, I think Eugene looked at me, probably like a very mild sprain on the SC or AC joint.
Probably both, actually.
That's what I think it's both, because I can feel it right here.
A little bit of both.
But not a big deal. It'll take a week or two to heal. No big issue. But had I known, I've been thrown forever. If had I been expecting the throw, I'd been fine. I would have broke fall and made sure I fell correctly.
Sure. I
would have been in a different posture completely, than standing straight up like, what are you talking about? I would have been ready to go. But because I wasn't expecting the throw, I didn't even know he was even going to throw me at this point. Because he threw me later on and I was ready for it. It's fine. But right then I wasn't ready for it. So he throws me without me expecting it, throws me off, and I get kind of in a bad position. I fall in a weird position. Same thing. When you go into something just like with me in the farm with the Jess, I know I'm going to mess up some stuff. We're going to mess up a bunch of stuff. It's going to happen. So when it happens, it doesn't bother me. It's like, oh yeah, see, I knew something was going to happen. Here it is. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. When you train, you got to always expect that. And if it doesn't, great, then you're the exception, right? But you always have to expect that anytime you do new stuff in jiu-jitsu, or anytime you do jiu-jitsu, if you're new, you're going to fail. You're going to whatever. And when it happens, don't be surprised. Like, you knew that was going to happen. Don't take it personal. Just roll with it. Say, oh yeah, this is my failure part. This is the stuff I got to go through that they always talk about. All right, cool. Give me mine. This is the path I got to go through, right? Everybody loves to, post a David Goggins quote, right? About everything being hard. Well, here's your hard, difficult challenge. What are you going to do with it? Right? Here's yours. So expect it. And when you expect it, when you realize it's not who you are, those are two different things. It's easier to deal with.
I think failure it's very hard for me sometimes to deal with, but it's also my greatest teacher. I definitely, when I fail at something, like it is in my mind, it is like up front. It's something I have to address.
Of course.
So like, I always try to get, if I can, once I kind of realize, all right, this is my game plan, I try to get a game plan moving forward, and I try to get back on the horse right away. So it's like, if somebody got the best of me at training, like I'll next time, I'm hoping they're at the gym so I can kind of see if I do better next time. Yeah. That type of thing. But you were talking about just like not expecting to fail. And my nerd brain was thinking about the Matrix, when Neo, he gets put in the Matrix and he did the jumping program, and everybody's expecting him to, like, if he's the one, he's going to make it, and he falls flat, and they're like, what does this mean? And he's like, it didn't mean anything. It was part of his process. Right. So it's just kind of what you take. Like, I think failure, some people do obviously use it or accept it better. For me, like I grew up like I don't think it was you're not supposed to make mistakes, you know, and mistakes are bad. But actually, I mean, as long as, like you said, are you okay? Everything's fine. You know, all right, are you alive? Let's do it again. Let's learn from it. And and for me, like if I do something half correct, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I kind of did it. I just didn't do it as well. But if I completely fall flat on my face, I think it's such a powerful lesson and powerful teacher, and it motivates me because I don't want to feel that anymore. I'm like, oh, I hate the way this feels, and I want to be better. I don't want to feel that way, and I don't want to be in that place again. So I definitely learn from it, and it also gives you direction. That's why tournaments are so valuable. I think. Well, it can. That's why tournaments. If you go into a tournament and you get handled, say, you know, somebody ankle locks you in 10 seconds, you're like, all right, I have to work my leg locks. I have to figure this out. So it can give you direction. So I think, like, you know, if you feel stagnant in jiu-jitsu, like you said, competing or, you know, changing it up a little bit but for me, competition was always a valuable teacher because it told me, okay, you're on the right track. You can be better, or you got to work on this thing. So.
Yeah, because negative experiences in our brains stand out more so than a lot of times the positives.
Always.
Right. So, I mean, like, think about it, like negative stuff stands out. I mean, even like, for instance, when there's a book called Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. He's more in like the Stoic philosophy stuff these days. But back in the day, he used to be kind of a marketer. And in this book, he talks about basically manipulation tactics that these marketers use. And you can see them, they are alive and well today. And one of them is just using negative stuff. So again, they did tests where they would put up, like, you know, happy stuff. You know, people would pay attention a little bit, but man, awful stuff, angry stuff, bad stuff, people just pay attention. They just can't help. It's just so easy for them. They're just, oh my God, right? And again, you know, you see something, you see a car wreck, oh, you got to look, right? Sure. You know, you can think about, don't touch the hot stove. Until you touch the hot stove, you don't pay attention. But as soon as you touch, ooh, it's hot. I'm not gonna touch the hot stove again. Yep. And so, you know, again, it's just the way that we're wired. And so negative experiences stand out. And so, yeah, so when you learn from them, though, you got to learn to take the lessons from them, because it's too easy when negative stuff happens, either to want to not, I did this when I was younger, to not want to look at it. So when you lose, you take it way too friggin' personally, and you don't want to like stare at your mistakes. You don't want to look at them in the face and go, man, look at me get smashed, because it's too hard. Your egos are too wrapped up in who you think you are. Or, you know, you can blame it on other people. I mean, everybody knows someone who, like, every time something happens in their life, it's always someone else's fault, right? And you can do this in jiu-jitsu. There's plenty of that like piss poor attitude where, you know, oh, the ref did this, or yeah, man, this guy was just really good at this, or, you know, it's this person or that person said, you know what, I could have done this. This is what I could have done. This is what I could have done in this situation. And you take ownership of it. You know, but you can do with it however you want to. It always goes about how you perceive things. And I think the biggest obstacle is people like have trouble accepting their failures and their losses, whether it's an ego issue where they just can't accept it mentally, or, you know, for some reason they like weren't expecting to lose. You know, like, losing's just a part of it. That's just the way this works. You're going to fail. That's just natural. And the sooner you can get over that, the sooner you can get better. Because, you know, again, it's like, you have to be free from that. You have to be independent of the outcome. You have to do the thing that you got to do, and you got to do it as best you can, but you can't get too wrapped up in the outcome and to get too ahead of yourself, because that's when problems happen. You know, because then you have that conundrum. Like, I had this expectation of the outcome that I did not meet. You know, then you have the friction, opposed to saying, like, I'm going to give it everything I got, and here's what I'd like to have, but by no means am I expecting it to happen. I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to go after it. So that's my ideas about marathoning. Jiu-jitsu is a marathon, right? Like, you know, breaking it down into bites, understanding perseverance is needed above all else, creating things with like fun and novelty and, you know, something new to shake things up a little bit, having a clear vision as to what you want so that you must go forward, or what you don't want to push yourself forward, pacing yourself so this way you don't burn yourself out, because burnout is a real thing. Accepting your failures as the currency you pay for progress with. And yeah, hopefully that's useful to you guys.
That's good. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, all those things are applicable across the board. I think if you're a white belt to a black belt, you can take any of those pieces and apply them to your game or your life to, you know, to have better outcomes.
All right, guys. So hope you enjoyed that one. Again, if you enjoyed that sort of style, that idea of rules for jiu-jitsu, sort of like maxims, if you will, for your training, then let me know. I'm just curious. I always like to get feedback from you, and it's hard to do. We don't have a comment section for this thing. So if you want to, leave some feedback, shoot us a message. You could also, by the way, if you're trying to leave some feedback and you enjoy the podcast and you think we're worth a 5-star review, go to iTunes or wherever the heck you're listening to it. And if there's a star function or some way to rate us in a positive light, we definitely appreciate it. If for some reason you don't think it's worth a positive review, then let me know why. I'd like to know. And again, if you guys want to check out some of our sponsors, you can go to charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu. Right now until the end of June, you can save 20% on anything in their store. Again, if you've never used CBD before, I can only encourage you to try it out. I don't know that it's going to do anything for you. It may do something for you like it does for me, but try it out. I tend to encourage people to take for a month. Try it out for a month, see what you think. And if you like it, great. If you don't, no big deal. But try it out for a month to give it a whirl. Because if you're like me, you wish you would have used it sooner. Also, big thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Again, if you want to get yourself some jiu-jitsu gear, you can go to his website and check it out at epicrollbjj.com. We're also working on a little project together, so just kind of keep your eyes open for that. We'll tell you more about it as it comes up, but looking to do a new t-shirt and some no-gi gear. So once that's out and going, we'll let you guys know. Also, big thanks to our Manscaped sponsor. Again, if you want to check out any of their products, you can go to the website at manscaped.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20. You save 20% on the order and you get free shipping. By the way, if you go to epicrollbjj.com, I just forgot that. Use Jiu-Jitsu at the end, 15% off. And then again, if you want to support the podcast directly and get access to a library of exclusive content that we've made over the past couple of years and help us keep going, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, become a member. And again, there's a couple different tiers there. Check it out, see what you want to do with it. And again, it's a membership, so it's helped support us over time. But again, if you want to cancel, you can cancel anytime. But until then, you can get in there and access all the content that's in the back end. And then if you guys want to see what's going on in my neck of the woods and be in direct contact with me, check out my email list. You can go to jiu-jitsu.net. On that website, there's a little thing that says free ebook. I'll send you a couple of free ebooks for training, like a game plan for jiu-jitsu, as well as a drilling ebook and all that kind of stuff. You can get access to that by doing that, by sending me your email address, and then I'll send you daily emails to your inbox. And then if for some reason, if you don't want to get those emails anymore, I'll stop sending them. You can unsubscribe at any time, but otherwise you can basically be the first ones to get info on anything that's coming up. So anyway, guys, with that said, that's it. That's the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you next week.